The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is a film by John Ford. It stands out amidst other films by its depth and prophetic quality. Ransom Stoddard is now a high-ranking politician in Washington, and his wife Hallie returned to Shinbone, a small town out west, to attend a funeral. The newspaper man demands a statement, and Ransom sets off to tell their story with a flashback, a confession. The story kicks off when Ransom Stoddard, a young lawyer, heads west, and his stagecoach gets held up by Liberty Valance and his gang. The crucial encounter occurs when Liberty is about to rob an elderly woman of her jewelry from her late husband. Ransom yells at Liberty, "What kind of man are you?" questioning Liberty's higher self, but Liberty turns the question around at Ransom, "What kind of man are you?" questioning Ransom's instinctual self and manly strength. This conflict between instinct and reason sets the tone for the entire film. Ransom then gets beaten by Liberty. Left unconscious, he gets picked up by Doniphan, played by John Wayne in one of his most iconic roles, who brings him to Hallie's place, the local diner. Hallie takes care of Ransom, nurturing him back to health. We learn that Doniphan is close to Hallie, planning to marry her and have a family, but those plans of his are about to take a dramatic turn as Ransom gets obsessed with putting Liberty in jail. It is clear that Shinbone cannot progress into a more civilized place with Liberty roaming the streets. Doniphan tells Ransom that if he wants to face Liberty, he better start packing a gun. Doniphan keeps Shinbone safe by being stronger and faster with his gun than Liberty. This gives Doniphan importance and prominence in town, and also Hallie's affection as her protector. Doniphan, in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, is a very unusual hero. Him and Liberty are like two sides of the same instinctual shadow archetype. He sacrifices his future with Hallie for her happiness, as he can see that she had fallen in love with Ransom, and also for Ransom to bring stability to Shinbone. Usually the hero ends up with the girl, but in this case, the hero sacrifices the marriage to the girl. Ransom, the second hero in this story, has to live a lie that he shot Liberty Valance out of heroic self-defense, and with that act liberated Shinbone from the threat of Liberty Valance. This act preserves the myth of law prevailing over lawlessness, even though it's Doniphan's instinctual, extra-legal violence that makes it possible. His sacrifice is compounded by losing Hallie to Ransom, and he retreats into obscurity, a relic of a fading frontier. Liberty and Doniphan as two sides of the same coin. Both embody the primal, violent ethos of the Old West. Doniphan, though, channels his strength toward protection, while Valance revels in destruction. By killing Valance, Doniphan symbolically removes the untamed aspects of himself, clearing the way for Ransom's civilized order. This aligns with the film's elegy for the Old West, where men like Doniphan are necessary but incompatible with the future. Ransom's lie and heroism. Ransom, the educated lawyer representing progress and law, becomes a hero through a fabricated narrative. The lie that he shot Valance in self-defense transforms him into a symbol of hope for Shinbone, enabling him to bring stability and infrastructure like schools and statehood. Ransom does exhibit heroic conviction, but he clearly would have just been shot dead by Liberty, as was demonstrated during the first part of the confrontation. No doubt Doniphan would have not sacrificed his life with Hallie had he not witnessed Ransom's determination and the fact that he was able to throw a strong punch. The final reason for Ransom to step into the shoes of a gunslinger and show enough bravery to face Liberty came from an attack on Peabody, Shinbone's newspaper man from back in the old days. He stands in strong contrast to the assertiveness of the current and more modern newspaper man who demands the interview with Ransom at the beginning of the film. Peabody represented the rather weak state of culture at the time. For example, when he shows Hallie how to arrange the cutlery, she asks him if he is superstitious or something, showing that rough frontier life has no need for theatrical etiquette. Peabody did fill an important role in Shinbone, even though the residents did not yet understand his position, which was relying heavily on alcohol for strength. Ransom understood the role of culture and supported Peabody. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance presents a complex and unconventional take on heroism, with Tom Donovan, Liberty Valance, and Ransom Stoddard embodying contrasting archetypes. Donovan and Liberty Valance represent the positive and negative aspect of instinct, as both represent the raw, untamed spirit of the Old West. Donovan through his rugged individualism, and Valance through anarchic violence. Donovan's heroism is tragic and self-sacrificing. Unlike the typical Western hero who rides off triumphant or claims the girl Hallie, Donovan cedes both love and glory to Ransom and Shinbone's future. By secretly shooting Liberty Valance, he eliminates the chaotic force that threatens progress, but allows Ransom to take the credit. However, the truth that Donovan's act enabled his rise haunts Ransom, as seen in the film's framing device, where he confesses to the newspaper editor that he in fact did not shoot Liberty Valance. The editor's response, when the legend becomes fact, "Print the legend," underscores the film's theme: myths sustain civilization even if they obscure the truth. Education and contrast. The dynamic between Donovan and Ransom is beautifully illustrated through their teaching roles. Donovan tries to teach Ransom to shoot, attempting to toughen him for the West's harsh realities, while Ransom teaches Hallie to read and write, symbolizing his commitment to enlightenment and law. These exchanges highlight their opposing philosophies, instinct versus reason, and their mutual dependence. Donovan's failure to fully convert Ransom to his ways mirrors Ransom's inability to fully erase the need for Donovan's violence. Donovan versus Ransom, instinct versus law. The film pits Donovan's instinctual, pragmatic world against Ransom's idealistic, legalistic one. In Jungian psychology, for example, instinct, chaos, and the shadow can only be conquered once it is openly faced and overcome. Ransom does face Liberty, but he can't overcome him. He had Donovan's help. He then keeps it a secret that he didn't shoot Liberty Valance until Donovan's death, possibly to protect Donovan while alive from being accused of murder. By playing a legend or a myth, Ransom pretends to be something which he really isn't. This is shown when the conductor on the train at the end says nothing is too good for the man who shot Liberty Valance. In response, Ransom shows that he no longer wants to play that role, and instead leave his life in Washington and return to Shinbone. He also wants to reconnect Hallie with her roots. Donovan understands that the West's chaos requires decisive action, while Ransom believes in justice through institutions. Their interplay reflects director John Ford's meditation on the transition from frontier to civilization, where the rugged individualist Donovan must give way to the community builder Ransom, but not without cost. This interpretation captures the film's moral ambiguity and its questioning of traditional heroism. Donovan's sacrifice, love, recognition, and his way of life makes him a tragic figure, while Ransom's reliance on a lie complicates his heroism. The film suggests that civilization is built on such compromises, and the tension between instinct and law remains unresolved. The various tendencies like Liberty versus Donovan versus Ransom are archetypal forces that operate within all of us and are impossible to satisfy, each of them completely. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance presents Liberty Valance, Tom Donovan, and Ransom Stoddard as archetypal forces embodying conflicting tendencies within human nature. These characters represent universal impulses, chaos, instinct, and reason that coexist uneasily within individuals and society, making complete satisfaction of each impossible. Liberty embodies raw, destructive freedom, an archetypal force of unchecked desire and violence. He's the part of us that craves power and regressive satisfaction without restraint, the impulsive drive that disregards consequences. Satisfying this tendency fully leads to anarchy, as seen in Liberty's terrorizing of Shinbone. Yet this chaotic impulse can't be entirely suppressed, as shown with Ransom's obsession with putting Liberty in jail. It's a primal part of human nature that resurfaces when order falters. Donovan represents the disciplined yet instinctual force, the rugged individualism that channels raw energy into protection or survival. He's the archetype of the hero who acts decisively, guided by gut and experience rather than abstract ideals. Within us, this is the drive to take action, to trust intuition over deliberation. But fully embracing this instinctual side, as Doniphan does, risks isolation and obsolescence, as civilization demands more structure. His sacrifice, killing Liberty and ceding Hallie, shows the cost of prioritizing instinct over integration into society. Ransom embodies the aspirational force of law, order, and morality, the part of us that seeks to build, educate, and uphold principles. He's the archetype of progress, advocating for justice through institutions. Internally, this is our capacity for reflection and ideals. However, fully satisfying this tendency ignores the messy realities of human conflict, as Ransom's initial helplessness against Liberty proves. His reliance on Doniphan's act and the subsequent lie reveals that reason alone can't tame the world without compromising its purity. The law cannot be enforced without a gun. The impossibility of complete satisfaction. These archetypes are in constant tension, both within individuals and in society. To fully indulge Liberty's chaos destroys community. To wholly follow Doniphan's instinct alienates us from progress. To entirely embrace Ransom's reason leaves us vulnerable to raw dictatorial power. The film suggests we're torn between these forces, and any attempt to prioritize one suppresses the others, creating imbalance. For example, Doniphan's instinct saves Shinbone but costs him personal fulfillment, while Ransom's reason builds a future but rests on a myth, in this case, a lie, which alienates him from his wife in an emasculating manner. This mirrors our internal struggles. We crave freedom but need structure, act on instinct but aspire to ideals. In the scene where Hallie drives out Desert Way to Doniphan's house, or what is left of it, she picks up the cactus rose which she then places on Doniphan's coffin. This scene reveals that she also sacrificed an important aspect of herself, which Doniphan resembled, an instinctual aspect of raw truth, an aspect that may be close to a woman's passion, which many times is chaotic and instinctual rather than reasonable. The question may come up whether or not Ransom and Hallie ever had children, as there are none with them on this journey, and there is no mention of any offspring. During a scene where Doniphan brings Hallie a cactus rose as a token of his admiration for her, Ransom questions her in a slight cynical tone, "Have you ever seen a real rose?" Hallie responds that once the river gets dammed up, they will be able to grow all sorts of flowers, expressing that if the flow of life energy gets controlled into more civilized ways by restricting the chaotic ways of Liberty Valance, they will be able to show all the expressions of a higher civilized culture, a notion that got inspired within her by her growing closeness to Ransom. The genius of the film lies in how it externalizes these internal conflicts through its characters. We all grapple with moments where we're tempted by Liberty's recklessness, rely on Doniphan's decisive gut, or strive for Ransom's principled vision. The tragedy is that no single path resolves the tension. Shinbone's progress requires all three: Liberty's disruption to challenge stagnation, Doniphan's action to defeat chaos, and Ransom's law to sustain order. But none can dominate without loss. This archetypal reading aligns with the film's themes of sacrifice and myth-making, showing that human progress, like personal growth, demands uneasy compromises. The interplay of these forces within us is why the story resonates so deeply. It's a reflection of our own irreconcilable drives and a subtle prediction of doom, as it shows us that our civilization won't last forever, as it stands on myths that will eventually collapse as many have done before.